Hi, Mari. My name is Vera, and I'm Italian. I'm the co-owner and COO of a technology company. I am also a creative person. I have the dream of writing regularly, maybe one day writing a book, specifically something that would inspire younger women to embrace a technology path in their careers, regardless of the background and their knowledge. Recently, I feel like I lost my creative vibe. I don't write anymore. I try to be as open as possible in my readings, etc. But I'm so focused on my daily job that I have nothing left for the rest of my passions. How can I make it happen? How can I help all my interests coexist? Thank you.
Oh, Vera, this question is awesome. You have it, thousands of other people have it, and the solution is actually quite simple. What you need to do is to put your primary passion or your primary project first. You've got this big job as CEO, right? I'm sure there's tons of demands on your time. There's other people wanting you to do things and asking you for things. And as you've discovered, if you leave your creative writing or anything that's a passion project until the end of the day, chances are you're never going to get to it, right? You've used all that beautiful cognitive fuel in the morning. You're kind of spent. And what you need to do is just rest and recover at night. I have a quick story about this. Just a few weeks ago, I was in this same position. Josh and I were together. It was early in the morning. We were having our coffee and he said, "Hey, Marie, we need to go do some yard work. Can we just get that done? Like as soon as we're done, we'll get dressed and we'll go make it happen." And I'm like, "Honey, I love you, but no, I had a primary project." It was actually a new class that I just created called The 3 Productivity Mistakes You Can't Afford to Make, especially if you're already overwhelmed and overstretched, which Vera, you should take this class. I'll tell you more about it in a minute. But my point to him was, I love you, honey, and there's all these things that we all have to do. But if I don't put my primary project first, it ain't gonna get done because this brain of mine is gonna get taxed. And at the end of the day, I'm just gonna be too tired to do it. I know this sounds so simple, but here's a few pointers. You don't need 2, 3, or even 4 hours to put your creative writing first. Even if you started off with 15 or 20 minutes and you did that first thing, I promise you, when you do it consistently, you're going to build this momentum and it's going to be insanely amazing how much further you're going to get faster. And you'll still have the energy for your CEO job and all the other things you have to do, but you put your primary passion first. And look, this doesn't just work for me, right? I've got a little story for you from one of our Time Genius students that I really think is up your alley. So here's Dominica's story. She was actually able to finish her novel in 2 weeks, which is tiny tweaks in her schedule. Here's what she says. Before Time Genius, one of my biggest stressors was not writing. I'm a successful fiction author, but I would stress about my work all day and end up doing lots of meaningless tasks as I procrastinated. I was down on myself by the end of the day because I didn't want to write, and I would wake up with such guilt about not writing the day before and missing my personal deadlines, and the cycle would begin again. Time Genius helped give me clarity that writing is what I need to prioritize first every day. I've implemented a morning routine, a social media lockdown during focus blocks, and a pared down success plan each day. And I finished my novel on time. I wrote it in 2 weeks and I did it with joy. I also signed up for singing lessons because now I have the time to do them. I have a peace inside of me that I didn't have before. It's very difficult to even describe, honestly. My mind is still being blown with how quickly it's all changing for me. It's like whiplash, but in a good way. Time Genius is life-changing. So Vera, I wanted to read that to you because that's from a fellow writer, and that's someone who makes a living as an author. So if she got tripped up with procrastination, if she was having trouble finding her time to make it happen, it's understandable that you would too. But you can see how powerful it was when she trained herself to put her writing first. Bottom line, Vera, is you have to put your primary passion first. And if you want my help with learning exactly how to do that and still have the time and space for all of your other passions, I do hope you're going to join us for Time Genius. You can go check out the program at jointimegenius.com.
A question that we get often here is from people who are struggling to figure out, what should I do with my life? Yep. How do I find my passion or my purpose or my calling? And you've said, I'm not sure that anyone has a calling. Bingo. Can you speak to that?
Thank you for teeing this up. This whole calling passion thing is complete nonsense. It's as Steve Pressfield would call it, the resistance.
Yes.
That Van Gogh, if he had been born 20 years later or 20 years earlier, he wouldn't have done what he did. It's not like some angel came down when he was born and said, you're going to become an impressionistic painter. He wanted to do a thing, but he didn't know what the thing was. And if Steve Jobs had been born 20 years earlier, he would have done a different thing. This isn't about waiting for the right answer, because there is no right answer. What there are challenges we can sign up for and emotions we can experience. There are kinds of engagements we can seek out and ones that we don't want to. If you're the kind of person that only feels good when all the chips are on red 86, well, then you need to go find that kind of activity. If you're the kind of person that would rather have a small circle of people who are committed to you for a long time, find any variation of those activities. But if you're waiting for the perfect horse on that carousel to come around, you missed 3, 4, 5, 7 cycles while you were waiting. All the horses are just as good. It's the same carousel. Just get on the damn horse.
I love that. When I first started my career and I was starting to do life coaching and I was starting to get into dance and fitness, I remember feeling when I was in front of a fitness classroom and teaching, people doing bicep curls, or we were doing hip hop dance. There was a lot of that same feeling that I get even doing what I do now, like connecting with people, even honestly bartending and making people drinks and talking to them about their meals and like asking them who they are and getting to know them in their dreams. There was so many threads that I've now can see in hindsight where it was me being me, and who knows what's going to happen in another 20 or 30 years.
And this is where the grass is greener thing gets us into so much trouble, because you have a sensational life, but so do some fitness instructors and so do some bartenders. Yes. Your life doesn't get more sensational when you have more followers on Twitter. That's not what you ought to be keeping score of. Yes. It's, does this interaction leave behind a trail that I'm proud of? And does having the interaction make me glad that I did it and want to do it again? And, so I know people who run nonprofits, and some of them are big and some of them are small, and they're getting equal amounts of satisfaction, because bigger isn't the point, more isn't the point.
Yes.
And when are there bad ideas? There are tons of bad ideas. I'm not saying all ideas are equally good. What I'm saying is finding a thing that works is sufficient. And that's the challenge. So entrepreneurs, for example, too many entrepreneurs think that there's a prize for originality. There's no prize for originality at all. You should steal a different person's idea. You should bring something that worked in Detroit to Cleveland, because you don't have to worry about apologizing and say, well, I went to a muffin store in Detroit that worked, so I brought it to Cleveland. So what? What matters is now there's someone in Cleveland who's engaging with you, buying something from you that gives both of you pleasure. And there are so many places where we need more of something. No one's asking you to be that person who invents something that never existed before. What we're asking you to do is choose to matter in a way that aligns with who you want to be.
Yeah. And I think it's also important to talk about this idea, how you do things matters. Thinking about the bartending days, and we were having lunch before, all the people on the crew, and we were just recalling folks. Like, there was a valet person who I met in Venice in California. This guy was amazing, and he brought such light to what he did and lit up and I'm still talking about him, and this is years later, but the level of excellence and joy. And someone else was talking about these 2 pizza guys, like the banter they would do. It makes you want to go into the pizza store again and again. And it wasn't even the best pizza, but you just had this quality of interaction. And I think so many people miss that, looking for the holy grail of a perfect purpose.
Right.
Yeah.
And what they're actually looking for is a way to hide by saying, I'm looking for the perfect purpose. I went to business school with a guy who said he was waiting for the right moment to start his entrepreneurial venture. And that was 27 years ago. Wow. Right? That I started so many bad ones along the way, but sooner or later, you're going to stumble into one that you're glad you did.
Yeah. I want to hear more about like your actual process as you were creating these. Like, this is a question that we get often because I have so many folks in our audience who, whether they are running their own businesses right now, or they are working in a particular job and they have a dream of producing a book. What did it look like for you practically to produce some of this work while you were still simultaneously running your marketing business? Like, did you wake up early in the morning? Did you just fit it into nooks and crannies? I know it might seem like, do people care? People care. Like, they love hearing about this stuff. So I just wanted to make sure that I asked.
Yes. So very practically, Mackenzie Blue became a client of my agency. I felt like we had to treat it that way, like our own internal project, but it had to get the same love and care as other marketing projects. What I honestly wasn't prepared for, and this doesn't happen anymore, but this just gives you a sense of where we were in 2007. The first time I get my pages delivered from my publishing company, in walks, a package of 200 plus long old school copies with notes, handwritten notes from my editor, right? Stick it like Post-it notes where I had to go through everyone, initial everyone, answer everything. And so it's like I had gotten ready for the process until that point. And then I was like, okay, this is a thing. Like, this is a moment, right? like I had a process for everything before the pages came. And then how many times we go through those pages. But it really was, I had to treat her and this project like it was a project of the agency. And I guess because of my business, I could make it make sense that way. But it goes to carving out time and energy for the project the way we would any other project.
I feel like what you hit upon there, folks are gonna, and I'm writing this down in my own head because it's such a question that we get all the time. It's like, how do I make time for that? Because we're so conditioned, most of us, it's so easy for us to deliver for other people. It's so easy for us to make that time for our clients or for other people in our lives when we have to. And then our personal projects, quote unquote, tend to take the back burner. And I think what's so genius about what you said, it's like, nope, it gets the same slotting in as any other client would. So it gets elevated to this position where there's deadlines, there's a project plan, right? There's all of the things that we would do if we are delivering for a client or for somewhere else. I think that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Hi, Marie. I've spent the last several months reevaluating what I want to do with my life. I've been reading self-help books and watching videos with some of the greats to find inspiration, my inner purpose, create a vision board, learn positive thinking, you name it. But I'm really struggling to find my true passion. I know what I'm great at and the things I enjoy doing, but I still haven't nailed a specific passion yet. Any advice? All the best, Janelle. Janelle, this is one of the most commonly asked questions ever, and I struggled with this myself, in fact, for years when I was first starting out. I was making the same mistake that most people make, which is this. You can't find your passion by thinking about it in your head. Why? Because of this here tweetable. Clarity comes from engagement, not thought. This is especially true with finding your passion. I remember one of the things that I was quote unquote passionate about was hip hop dance, but I spent so much time, and let me actually correct that, I wasted so much time thinking about whether or not I should do it as a career. I remember thinking to myself, you know what? I have zero dance training and most people start dancing when they're like in the womb, and I was already in my mid-20s. I also was worried because I felt like dance wasn't really a smart long-term career choice. I thought, well, I'm not gonna make that much money. It could be a little unstable, yada, yada, yada. Finally, I got smart and I got up off my butt and I actually put myself into a dance class. And it was at Broadway Dance Center. And I remember it was the first pro class that I'd ever taken in my life. And I was sitting on the floor and I was stretching. And I actually started weeping tears of joy because it felt so right in my body. And in that moment, I knew there was no way that I was not going to go for this as a career. It totally took all the wishy-washiness away. And I got really clear because I engaged and I took action. Now, there's a lot more to this story, but the relevant part for you is you have to stop thinking and start doing. You got to remember, clarity comes from engagement, not thought. So, Janelle, you said that you had some ideas about what you think you might be passionate about. You know what you like doing. Stop thinking and just get out there. So whether that's getting a job in that field, volunteering, taking a class, I don't care what you need to do. You just need to get your buns out there and do it. Now, the second part I want to talk about, which I also think most people get wrong, is this. Passion is not something that you can go find at the end of the rainbow. And no, it is not in a box of Lucky Charms.
Pink hearts, orange stars, yellow moons, green clovers, blue diamonds, and purple horseshoes.
See? No passion marshmallows, Janelle. That's because passion is not something that exists outside of yourself. Now, the real secret to this whole finding your passion thing is that you have to train yourself to bring passion to everything that you do. So when you wake up in the morning, be passionate about making your bed. And when you're making lunch, be passionate about making lunch. And even when you're doing the dishes, you got to be passionate about doing the dishes. Gotta get them clean. Love this. Now, I know this sounds kind of hokey, but I gotta tell you, it works. Passion is contagious. When you're passionate and you're passionate about everything that you do, people around you start to take notice and they want to know what's up with you. Can they get in on whatever you're doing? I promise you, if you really execute this, you're going to find opportunities just falling in your lap, and very, very quickly you're going to fall into what you're meant to do in this world. And I got to tell you, it will be magically delicious. If you're wondering how to do all the things that you love without looking like a flake, this one is for you. Today's question comes from Tanya, and she writes, "Hello, amazing Marie and team. I adore the show and how you make business fun. You're a breath of fresh air in a stuffy business world. Here's my cue. You went from the stock market to life coaching, dancing, workout videos to what you do now. Like you, I'm multi-passionate and I've had many different niches through my journey in entrepreneurship, yet they all build upon each other. I see my changing directions as a way to find my true calling, yet others just see it as proof that I'm confused. So the question is, how do you bridge from one thing to the other without looking flaky to your followers? Thanks, Tanya." Tanya, this is such a great question, and I know in my heart that so many people that watch the show can relate. So we're going to give you some actionable strategies in just a few minutes. But first, for anyone who's new to that phrase, multi-passionate, that's a term that I coined way back in the early 2000s because I was having a hard time fitting myself into a conventional career box. You know, there were so many things that I was pursuing, like life coaching and dance and fitness and writing and speaking, and it was all under this umbrella of entrepreneurship. But here's the thing. I constantly felt ashamed and self-conscious when people at parties would ask, "What do you do?" That is when I came up with that term. I'm a multi-passionate entrepreneur. And seriously, it was like the clouds parted and the angels sang. The truth is, many of us have multiple strengths and passions, but we never give ourselves permission to explore and cultivate them. But I gotta tell you, some of our greatest cultural icons have. A classic is Leonardo da Vinci, the Italian polymath, whose interest included invention, painting, sculpting, architecture, science, music, math, engineering, literature, anatomy, geology, astronomy, botany, writing, history, and cartography. And sometimes he's even credited with the invention of the parachute and the helicopter and the tank. Then there's one of my favorite women of all time, the incomparable Maya Angelou. Maya danced at a strip joint. Then she ran a brothel. She mastered several languages, published not just poetry, but also advice books and cookbooks and children's stories. She danced professionally. She wrote music and plays and screenplays, and she received an Emmy nomination for her acting in Roots. And she was an activist who worked with Martin Luther King to organize the Poor People's March in Memphis, Tennessee. And then, of course, there's James Franco, actor and director and visual artist and author of a book of short stories, teacher at NYU, UCLA, and a high school. And if you look him up on Wikipedia, the section on other projects is real long. So the question is, how do you make all the things make sense together? Well, here are 6 ideas for you to consider. Now, some might seem conflicting, so you just choose what is most relevant to you. Number 1 is embrace your flake. You got to be real about your journey. Just own the fact that you've enjoyed a very rich and diverse path. And if you want to keep experimenting with different ideas, just be real about that too. Stop being ashamed of who you are, woman, whether you're just legitimately confused about what you want to do or you're just genuinely interested in having multiple businesses or parts of your career. You gotta own it. You gotta love it. You gotta hug up on it. Number 2, position it properly. So realize that you get to choose how you position anything, like who you are as a human being and your journey. You get to frame your experience both for yourself and for the world. So, what's the story you're going to tell? Are you going to position your multi-passionate nature as a strength or as a weakness? As something that makes you fantastic or something that makes you a flake? You can tell someone, I'm not really sure what I do. Or you could tell someone, what don't I do?
Oh, she does it. She does it all.
She does all the
All of
jobs.
it. From the top to the bottom,
Like,
from the middle to the
every single
side.
one.
And then again, big, little, everything.
Choice is yours. Number 3, I want you to play in private. So you don't have to announce every time you're going to try something new. That way, when you say you want to switch to running a bakery, you don't have to hear everyone say, what happened to training horses? Just because you can throw up a new website or start a new Instagram account in like 4 minutes does not mean you should. And if you do, you don't have to put out a press release about it and tell the whole world. I mean, it makes no sense to tell everyone to look at you if you're not really ready to be looked at quite yet. In other words, play with yourself in private. Number 4, relish obscurity. So chances are right now, you are the most unknown that you'll ever be in your whole career. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. So use this time to make mistakes and just test stuff out. Like try random ideas. You know, other businesses experiment. They do test market things all the time. They do things on a very small scale with just a few people to see if a new idea or product really has legs before they roll it out on a large scale. So use this time when you don't have a huge audience watching your every move wisely. Number 5, and this is the big one. Do not try and turn everything into a business. Oh my goodness. This is the biggest one of all of you, my multi-passionate muffins. Have hobbies and have passions that you don't try and earn a living from. Look, you do not have to monetize everything you do. In fact, you shouldn't. And do not try and cram everything into just one business. Not everything is going to fit together into a narrative that makes sense for customers or for you, so don't force it. Let some of your passions be just that, passions you do purely for the joy of it. Number 6, give 0 ducks. You know, I've got kids that follow this show now, so while you might be familiar with another word that rhymes with ducks, here we are sticking with ducks. Tanya, it is time for you to stop giving so many ducks about what other people think. In fact, I think you should give 0 ducks. You know, you said other people think that you're confused. So what, my love? If I cared what other people thought about how many things that I wanted to do, I'd still be stuck on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, getting taken to strip clubs and doing shots of woo-woo at like 4 p.m. every day. Sorry, kids. You know, at the end of the day, it is your life. You got to ask yourself, are you happy? Are you fulfilled? Who cares what other people think then? Hashtag given 0 ducks. I want to start off with something that you shared in the introduction to your book, which is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
You shared, I come from a long line of women who were forced into a life they never defined for themselves. Take us back to those early days in your village in Zimbabwe. I want folks to understand the picture of what life was like for you as a 14-year-old.
You know, I always talk about coming from this long line of generations of women who had been denied the right to their dreams, the right to their education. I always visualized my great-grandmother when she was born. She was born into this race that she never defined. And she was born holding the baton of poverty, early marriage, illiteracy, a colonial system that never respected her. And she's running into this race with this baton. She runs so fast, she hands over this baton to my grandmother. My grandmother grabs that baton of poverty, illiteracy. She runs, she hands over that baton to my mother. My mother grabs that baton in a race that she never defined because of the circumstances, and she runs, and she hands over that baton to me. I never wanted to be part of that baton. I found myself getting married at a very early age and having babies. Before I was even 18, I was a mother of 4 children, without a high school education, with nothing. But all I wanted was an education. And when I talk about this baton of poverty that's being passed on, I also talk about the wisdom that is also passed on from generations before me. So in our lives, my grandmother used to say that you have the power to decide whether you keep on running with that baton of poverty, the baton of illiteracy, or you run with the baton of wisdom to rechange and reshift this baton so that you become the one who breaks the cycle of poverty, early marriage, lack of education, abuse, and all the ugly things in our lives. So when I was hardly 22 years of age, my country, we had just gained our independence because all along we had been colonized by the British. And here I was, a mother of 4, and my country had gained that independence, and strangers started coming in. Americans, Australians. And these were women who would come to the community. And there was this particular woman. She sat with me and with other women, and she asked me one question that I'll never forget in my life. What are your dreams? I never knew I'm supposed to have dreams because I was an abused woman, a silenced woman. Remember, I had 4 children, and actually one of the babies died as an infant because I failed to produce enough milk. I was a child myself, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, am I supposed to have dreams in my life? And other women started sharing their own dreams, and I was quiet. She looked at me and she said, young woman, you haven't said anything. Tell me, what are your dreams? I couldn't bring my dreams. I knew I had these dreams in me, but for some reasons, I couldn't because there was so much noise in my mind. I had been shaped to believe that I was nothing. And maybe it was the way she kept on looking at me, the way she nudged me to say something. And when I opened my mouth, I became a chatterbox. And I said, I want to go to America. I want to have an undergraduate degree. I want to have a master's. And I want to have a PhD. There was silence. The other women looked at me and I could feel they were saying, are you crazy? How can that be? You don't even have a high school education. And I guess there was something about these American women when they were coming to my village. There was this sense of empowerment, sense of loving thyself. And I wanted that. I would see them getting into their backpacks and removing books or papers, and they would look at those books and open, and they would put on their glasses, spectacles, and they would talk to each other and put back those spectacles back into their bags. And I thought wearing glasses was a sign of education, and I wanted that. So when I talked about these degrees, I had heard these women talking about these degrees, and I wanted to have an education to change my life. And she looked at me and she said, yes, it is achievable. If you desire those dreams, if you desire to change your life, yes, Tinogona. Tinogona in my culture, in my language, it means it is achievable. I'd never heard of a woman declaring herself to believe they can achieve their own dreams. And when I left that place, I ran to my mother and I said, my mother, I have met someone who made me believe in my dreams. My mother looked at me and she said, Tererai, if you believe in what this stranger has said to you, and you work hard and you achieve your dreams, not only are you defining who you are as a woman, you are defining every life and generations to come. And I knew at that moment that my mother was handing me an inheritance. My mother knew that I needed to be the one to break this vicious cycle of poverty that runs so deep in my family and in the community. I needed to redefine the baton so that I would never pass on this baton to my own girls. I needed to get this education. So my mother said, Tererai, write down your dreams the same way and bury them the same way we bury the umbilical cord, the birth cord. I come from a culture that believes so much in indigenous knowledge, ancient wisdom. When a child is born, the female elders of the community, they take that infant, they snip the umbilical cord, bury that umbilical cord deep down under the ground with the belief that when this child grows, wherever they go, whatever happens in their life, the umbilical cord will always remind them of their birthplace. So my mother said, if you write down your dreams and you bury those dreams, your dreams will always remind you of their importance, that you need to redefine your life, that you need to break this cycle, that you need never to pass on this baton, this ugly baton of poverty, illiteracy, early marriage. So I wrote down my dreams. 4, I want to go to America. I want to have an undergraduate. I want to have a master's and a PhD. And I was ready to bury those dreams deep down under the ground when my mother said something so profound, which really has changed my life. She said, Tererai, I see you only have 4 dreams, personal dreams. But I want you to remember this. Your dreams in life will have greater meaning when they are tied to the betterment of your community. And I looked at my mother and I'm thinking, what does that even mean? My mother repeated, your dreams in this life will have greater meaning when they are tied to the betterment of your community. I would end up writing down my 5th dream, number 5. When I come back, I want to improve the lives of women and girls in my community so they don't have to go through what I had gone through in my life. I want to come back, create employment platforms for women. I want to come back, build schools so that girls, they won't be marginalized. And I buried my dreams. And it would take me 8 years. And I call those 8 freaking years.
Yes, Mama.
To gain my high school diploma because I was going through correspondence. I was an adult. I couldn't fit into a classroom, so I would do correspondence. And my mother was very poor. I didn't get enough money to pay for my tuitions. I needed 5 subjects, classes: English, math, biology, history, and Bible knowledge or something. And we were still under the British system of education. So I would do my correspondence, 2 subjects at a time. Whenever my mother was able to sell groundnuts or any produce, she would give me $20, $40 to register for my classes. And I would write my exams and send these papers to a place called Cambridge. I had no idea where Cambridge is. And I would wait 3 to 6 months for that brown envelope from Cambridge to come. And I would open that envelope and I would realize I have a U ungraded. I have an F failure. And I would go back to my mother. She would give me more money. And I would write again and wait another 6 months. I opened that brown envelope. I have a U ungraded. I have a failure. And I would go back and I would wait and write and wait. And finally, I opened that brown envelope from Cambridge. I had a B and I had an A. I never gave up. 8 years, I never gave up because I knew I was on a journey to redefine my life. I knew I had what it takes to achieve my own dreams in this life. Yes. And then after 8 years, I would find myself at Oklahoma State University. And I did my undergraduate in agriculture.
I mean, even just pausing there for a moment, there's so many things to underscore and highlight, but I am so moved by your spirit and your vision and your heart and your tenacity. I mean, when you buried those beautiful dreams in the can and you put them under the rock, you were still in poverty.
Oh, yeah.
You were a mom with an abusive husband.
Yes.
Yes. And you did those correspondence courses for those 8 freaking years.
Yeah.
And then to get yourself over to university here in the States, as you wrote, you came over with money strapped to your waist.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that wasn't even... It was still a long journey after that.
It was.
So before we go on to that piece of the journey, I just want to highlight your incredible, precious mom. I feel like you and I share something, you know, my mom was the one that taught me everything is figure-outable.
Yes.
And your mom was that touchstone that said, you deserve to dream.
Yeah.
The wisdom that she had in terms of your 5th dream, it feels like that was really... That changed everything.
It does. And I think in many ways, she was pointing to the secret to our success that is not about the education. It's not about the personal goals.
Yes.
Neither is it about the personal financial goals, but it is about how our education and how our personal goals are connected to the greater good.
Yes.
That's what makes humanity. That's what makes who we are as a people.
Yes.
And so my grandmother would always say to me, and my mother, you have the power within. It's not your past that's going to define who you are, but it's what you believe about yourself. It's what you believe about your own expectations. What is it that you expect from yourself? Yes. And she would tell me, my mother, that you go to that place where you buried your dreams. You visualize the life as you think it should be. So I would spend hours and hours sitting in that same place, visualizing myself getting into an aeroplane. I'd never been in an aeroplane in my life, and I'd never seen one. The only aeroplane that I knew were the helicopters that would fly during the war, because I was born and raised in a war-torn country.
Yes.
And I would visualize myself sitting into that helicopter, imagining myself flying to this place called America. And I would see these tall buildings. And my grandmother would say, feel those mental images, see those buildings. And I would see them, and I would even smell the life that I wanted. And so when I got onto that aeroplane, there was this déjà vu. I think I've been here before. Even when I arrived on campus, I felt I've been in this place before, because I had spent so much of my time wanting to change my life, and so much of my time visualizing this life that I wanted, visualizing this life that I was not going to pass on this baton to my girls, and I wanted to change it all. So when I started my classes, I found pure joy. I was always the oldest student in any class that I've taken, and sometimes older than the professor herself or himself.
Yes.
But I never cared, because I knew I had the power
Yes.
to change my life.
Yes. And your life when you got here was still wrought with so much challenge. I remember when I first learned about your story in Half the Sky from Nicholas Kristof and Cheryl Woodan, where you were feeding yourself out of trash cans.
Oh, yeah.
Your children were cold.
Oh, yeah.
The husband that was abusive for a period of time, he was still here.
Yeah. Because Zimbabwe, where I was coming from, the weather is different.
Yes.
And there's always this community cohesion. You can have your kids, you can leave your kids with your neighbors and what have you. Yes. And now I'm in a different country. And I didn't have a scholarship.
Yes.
I would work 3 jobs to feed the children and still taking classes. And I remember when my kids, when they arrived in the US, 3 months down the road, as they were brushing their teeth, I saw their gums were bleeding, and I knew they were missing fruits and vegetables. Back home, you can grow your fruits and vegetables, and they grow because it is the tropics. Yes. I mean, and in America, fruits and vegetables are a little bit expensive.
Yes.
So I would many times would go to bed hungry. And I went back to the university and I said, I have a dream, but I'm about to give up. I can't see my children suffering. It's one thing for me to have this great dream, but it's another to see my kids suffering. And fortunate enough, the university said, there are local stores here. I hope they don't mind, or you don't mind, if they give you leftover fruits and vegetables. And I said, no, I don't mind. So we went to this local store. The manager looks at me and said, oh, no. In this country, if we give you these leftover fruits and vegetables, and if anything happens to your kids after they have consumed them, you'll end up suing us. Yes. And I said, I have no dime to sue anyone. Please, I need to feed the children. And the store manager says, okay, here's a deal. You make sure that I'm not going to hand over the fruits to you. I'm going to pack them in a cardboard box, and I'm going to place the cardboard box outside the store near the trash can. Make sure that at 4:00 every day, you come and pick that box. If you are late, we are going to throw the box into the trash can. 99% I was late to that cardboard box because I had to work 3 jobs, take care of 5 kids, and I would find the box straight dumped into the trash can. Some of the fruits have already spilled over, and I would collect everything, wash, and go and feed my children and ask myself, who am I to even complain that I live in a trailer house in Oklahoma? It's a dilapidated trailer house. There is no air condition. Everything is just falling apart. Who am I to complain when I know there are thousands of women and individuals that I see every day on the streets in Western countries? Who am I to complain? And who am I even to say I'm feeding my children from trash cans when I know where I'm coming from in sub-Saharan Africa, millions of homeless kids are feeding from trash cans that no one is washing. At least the American trash can, someone washes it. Those thoughts grounded me because I knew at the end of the tunnel, despite its darkness, there was light.
Yes.
And I knew I had the solutions in me. So I graduated my master's in plant pathology and told myself I wasn't going for my PhD. I needed to work. It was too much. I needed to work. I needed to give a better life for my children. And I applied for a job, got accepted at some place in Arkansas, Little Rock, and I went for the interview, and one day I'm walking in the corridor and I meet this woman, and she looks at me and she said, "I think I know you." And I am thinking, I've met many Americans and many white women. I don't know. She said, "I really think I know you." Yes. And I am thinking, gosh, who is this woman? And then it dawned on me that, oh my gosh, that's the very woman that I had met some 14 years back in my village. The one who had inspired me to believe in my dreams. The one who had never seen the povertyness in me, the smallness in me, my giant, my champion, the one who said, "Yes, Tinogona, you can achieve your dreams if you believe in your dreams." And that was Jolak. Yes. And now she is the CEO and president of Heifer International, this organization that had just employed me. And I am thinking, the universe has a way to honor our dreams if only we believe and we become determined and work hard towards our own goals. And so my first trip home, I went to that place where I had buried my dreams, dug them up, and I could see that list and check going to America, check undergraduate, check master's. And I could see 2 dreams still looking at me and saying, "So what?" And I said, "I have the solution for you." And I reburied those dreams and came back to the United States of America and enrolled myself at Western Michigan University for my PhD. And I remember the day that I graduated and I was walking that podium to receive my PhD, that paper that now says you are a PhD holder, you are now Dr. Trent. And I realized it had taken me 20 years from the day that I buried my dreams to the day that I was now going to receive my PhD. And as I was walking that podium to receive that paper, I really felt like a lawyer who had rested her case to the world. To say, if we believe in our dreams, yes, we can achieve. But also to say, if we believe in the dreams of others and create platforms for their opportunities, yes, they can achieve their dreams. Because as I reflect back, it wasn't because of my intelligence, but it was more because of the opportunities that I had been given in life. And I think that drives everything that I do today, to realize that I stand on the shoulders of others. I stand on the shoulders of giants, of champions. And I have a moral obligation, a sacred obligation to allow young women, to allow girls, to allow individuals to stand on my shoulders. Because if it wasn't for the shoulders of others, I wouldn't even be sitting here with Marie Forleo.
I can't even, Mama. I'm going to run over and hug you right now. You talk about that great hunger. And I know there are so many people watching right now. I was talking with a woman earlier today and I was thinking about the beauty of your book, where the global silencing of women's voices, where they don't feel they have that permission to dream. And whether it is from familial trauma, sexual trauma, cultural trauma, of not knowing that they have a right to dream. Yeah. And that hunger inside of them is so healing. Like when I look at you, you have been an inspiration to me for so long.
Oh, thank you.
And just the beauty of your words and what you bring to people. What do you have to say to anyone watching right now if they are, first of all, I know they're going to be deeply moved and inspired by your story. But if they themselves are having trouble identifying that great hunger in their hearts, what would you say?
You know, we all have hunger.
Yeah.
Some they call it passion, but I prefer hunger because I realize there are two kinds of hungers in our lives. There is the little hunger. The little hunger is all about, I want it now, immediate gratification.
Yes.
But the great hunger, the greatest of all hungers, which is the hunger that we all have, is hunger for a meaningful life.
Yes.
How do you then tap into that hunger? Because it is within us. You ask yourself, what breaks my heart? What breaks my heart? Because it is in those moments of our brokenness, in those moments that we realize that it's not our past, it's not the challenges in front of us. Once we realize that, we have the power to find that solution within us. We begin to hear the stirring in our own heart, pointing us to something greater than who we are. And we find the answer to that great hunger.
Yes.
But we have to be more intentional.
Yes. Hey, it's me. So real quick, if you want to learn to start and grow your dream business, but you literally got no money to do it, you are going to love my free guide. It's called 322 Free Tools and Resources to Start Your Business, especially if you got no money. So you can go download it now at 322freetools.com. That's 322freetools.com. Hi, is this Esther?
Yes, this is Esther.
Hey, it's Marie Forleo, and you are on the Marie TV call-in show. How's it going?
Oh my God. This is awesome.
Yes, it is awesome.
Great.
You're here with Team Forleo and Gregory, and we are so excited. So tell us your question, and we will do our very best to help you out.
Sure. My husband and I, we recently started a blog-based business called Wayfinders Now, and we are in the process of trying to figure out exactly what our niche should be. And some examples of ones that we have are, we live on a 35-foot sailboat. I'm learning about sailing. We're both artists. We've cultivated more flexible work lives. We're caregivers for a loved one with dementia. We're also wanting to incorporate zero waste sustainability practices. I'm also a woman of color. So we've got a lot of areas of interest.
Yeah.
So I guess my main question is should we narrow down or not necessarily? And how can I be more intentional about how we can serve our audience?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, Esther, I just think it's so incredible. Clearly, you are a multi-passionate entrepreneur. Clearly, you and your husband, you guys are very creative beings, and there are so many of us in the world. So I think there's a lot of folks listening right now who's like, oh my gosh, how did they figure that out? I would kind of like to be on a sailboat. That's amazing. So I'm going to ask you a few questions, and we'll see if we can help you find some clarity. First,
Awesome.
Are you guys making money with this business right now?
No, we are not.
Okay, so then it sounds like you have created your life, and we don't need to get into this. I don't want you to divulge in anything that you don't feel comfortable with, but you've created your life in such a way where you don't necessarily need an income from this new business at this point. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Cool.
Yeah, we're able to be flexible where one of us can kind of hold down the fort, so to speak. Well, and about a month and a half ago, I've had the liberty to focus solely on this now.
Beautiful.
For the first time.
That's great. That is awesome. Congratulations. We love that. We are cheering that on. What I would encourage you to do is really get clear on what your goals are for this business. Some people start a business and they're like, you know what? It would be amazing if in the next, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, I could reach this $100,000 in revenue mark. That is a number I'm pulling out of my butt. Some people are higher, some people are lower. But when we're talking about a for-profit business, putting some type of financial goal in place is really helpful, especially at the stage you're at right now, and I'll tell you why. When it is a for-profit business, it has to make profit.
and for you to know how much you would like to make starts to give you something to measure all of your ideas against. You can look at all of these ideas and go, being a caregiver for a loved one with dementia, what are the possibilities to earn revenue in that space? What are the services? What are the products I could offer? What are the price points? How much would I have to work? How much would I have to make all of this work together in order to possibly reach the financial goal that I've said is important to me? Then you kind of measure that against sailing. All right. So this is just one framework, just one lens that we're looking through initially, because this is not just a simple black and white answer. So Esther, you getting clear on your financial reasons for wanting to start this business is one thing I'm going to encourage you really look at. Then we're going to look at the topic areas, right? Which of the 7, 10, 5, 3, whatever number that is, when you honestly get real with yourself and you think about devoting 5, 10, 15 hours a day to this particular topic area for the next 12 months, 24, 36 months, which of them makes you want to stick a fork in your eye and which of them makes your heart light up? Because I will tell you, like you as a multi-passion entrepreneur, there are many, many different things that I could focus on. There are many ways that we could earn money with the business, but I focus on what brings me to life, what makes me come alive, what makes me want to research and talk about and learn about and test literally until my eyeballs could fall out. That's how passionate I am about the things that we say yes to. So you put all of your ideas through that lovely filter. Then that'll help you narrow it down. Then you want to think about the market itself, meaning who are the people that you would be serving? So for example, I know in my own business, I'm dealing with a lot of creatives. I'm dealing with artists. I'm dealing with multi-passionate entrepreneurs, mostly, not all, but mostly. We have a lot of folks in our audience who, even if they do work within a corporate environment, or maybe they work for the government or teachers, there is this creative spirit within them that still finds a way to come to life in their work. For example, I don't think that I would necessarily work well if I only focused on, let's say, corporate accountants, if that was the only niche that I was going to, because I don't necessarily have a lot in common with just that narrow type of human. Does that make sense? And by the way, for all you corporate accountants that are listening, I love you, mother. I'm saying if it was all just you, I might get a little bored because I need some more variety. So does that make sense? You have to serve people where you feel this deep, heart-centered love towards the audience. You know why? Because you are going to want to work your ass off to deliver value to them. You're going to constantly, without feeling the need like you should, you're going to be reading the right magazines. You're going to be going to the conferences. You're going to be naturally finding and unearthing the newest cutting edge research or whatever is necessary to stay at the top of your field. So those are some of the things that I think you should consider. Then once you've narrowed down, you're going to have to choose one based on your intuition and hit it. What I mean by that? Clarity comes from engagement, not thought. There's no magic business crystal ball that's going to be able to tell you, not me, not any other business strategist or coach. And if somebody tells you that they can, run because they're a liar. No one will be able to tell you what will actually work until you get out in the field and start doing it, start engaging, start working within that industry, even if it's for free. That's where you're going to find that clarity, Esther. And anytime your mind's like, oh, but I need to figure it all out in advance, say, nope, cut that conversation off and take a step, take action. And remember that clarity comes from engagement, not thought. It's Marie Forleo. How you doing?
I'm doing good. What about you?
I'm doing great. Well, you are on live on the Marie TV Live call-in show. All of Team Forleo is here, and we're really excited to talk to you. What's your question today?
Well, I'm an anthropologist. I specialize in the anthropology of health and indigenous studies. And I love my job. I love what I love my work. But I've been struggling with making a decision with the rest of my career. I don't know if I should do a PhD in anthropology or if I should pursue a dream that I've had since I was a little girl to be an astronaut. And I had put that dream on the back burner several years ago because I had glasses and bad vision. But now it turns out that I could get my vision corrected with laser surgery. And ever since I had my kids 2 years and a half ago, I've been kind of having like this existential crisis. I don't know what I should do with my career and my life. And it's been really hard to make a decision.
Yeah. Well, first of all, congratulations on your child. And I'm so happy that you asked this question because this is something really common. Not only that I've heard before, but I know people struggle with at so many different points in their lifetime. And so I want to talk to you about a couple things. First, by the way, I just got LASIK this year and it is the best thing ever. I know some people are like, no to the LASIK. I am like, yes to the LASIK. So whether or not you do it, I just want to tell you my experience was awesome. Second of all, as it relates to your career and what we do in life, there's a quote that has been attributed to Mark Twain that is one of my favorites, and I'll paraphrase it. It's saying that we will regret more of the things that we don't do than the things that we do. So when it comes to the end of our life, we're going to look back and really regret the things that we didn't go for, not the things that we tried. So I'm curious, Marie, does that resonate for you, that quote?
It does. And I mean, I do know that I think I will regret it later in the future if I don't try to study to be an astronaut, if I don't try to work towards it. At the same time, it's a hard choice because I do have a PhD lined up for the fall, for next September. I have 2 great supervisors and funding opportunities, and I do like working in anthropology a lot. I would like to be a professor, and it's hard to put that on the side to start studies that will take several years. And then, the recruitment process to be an astronaut is extremely difficult. And out of thousands of applicants, they pick 2 to 4 every year, not every year, every 7 years. So that's why this decision is so hard to make. The chances that I will reach my goal are slim at best. And I already do have a career that I enjoy. So that's why it's
so a little practicality. I know I'm interrupting you, but I'm curious. You said a piece of information that I was unaware of, which is that they accept applications every 7 years. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So why not go kick some major friggin' ass in your PhD now that you have that lined up and also start kind of setting the pieces in place so that the next round of 7 years, whether that's coming up shortly or it's the one after that, that you dive in and give it your best?
Well, if I want to apply now, I think the next process for recruitment is in 5 years. I need to have at least a bachelor's degree, which is 3 years of study, plus 3 years of work experience to be eligible to be recruited. That means 6 years of work. So in theory, even for the next recruitment process, I'm already late. And working on, taking science classes and doing a PhD in anthropology while being a mother to twins. I have twin girls. It's a big investment.
Sure.
Yeah. So that's why it's a very hard decision to make.
Okay. So even just by talking to you, I can hear in your voice, it sounds like you're actually more committed to the PhD program than you are to the idea of being an astronaut. So I'm curious, would you just be willing to make a choice that like, I'm going to go kick ass in my PhD? And it's not that you're, disappointing yourself in this dream of being an astronaut. You're making a proactive choice about what's best for you right now as an adult woman. This dream that you've had since you were small, right? Because that's the one, to be an astronaut. You had that dream, but you also didn't have the life you have now, which is twin girls and a career that you keep telling us that you love. So what if the solution is actually about setting yourself free and embodying the dream for your life that you have in this moment rather than one from the past?
Sure, that makes sense.
I can hear your heartbreak. Well, here's the thing that I know, Marie. You continuing to go on and torture yourself is not going to do you any good. It's not going to do your girls any good. And it's not going to do yourself any good to go into this PhD process with 1 foot in your astronaut dream and 1 foot in the PhD. Because you're going to torture yourself for the rest of your life. And I don't think that's a great place to live. And I don't think it's very useful.
True. And I have been juggling with, the decision for several years, as I said. And it's a hard choice to make because it's such a big investment to change careers at this point. And, in both cases, it's a sacrifice. So I guess you're right. It's just about making a decision and moving on.
Yeah. And I can hear the emotion in your voice, and that's okay. And here's the thing, Marie, just because you're deciding not to go after the astronaut dream right now doesn't mean that you won't find an opportunity or a way to work in that field in the future. You don't know what's coming over the next 5, 10, 15, or 20 years as it relates to both your life and as it relates to the sciences and how things are going to progress, the people that you could possibly meet, or where your life could take you. So what I want to help you avoid doing is just confining yourself to a very limited idea of like what your life is going to be about, and really choose the PhD program from a place of joy and see how, who knows, you might engage with a space program a little bit down the line.
Mm-hmm. Sure. I mean, I think it makes sense. And I think it's, it's a good attitude to adopt. I used to not worry so much about making decisions like this. And it always worked out beautifully in the past. So
tell me about that. Wait, I'm interrupting. Before you go on, tell me more about that.
Well, I used to kind of like ride the wave, surf the wave, I would say. I didn't worry too much about decisions regarding my studies or my work. And it always seemed like life was taking me where I needed to be. I would, go on a trip and discover I had an interest and then choose to take some classes following that. And then that led me to anthropology. And then when I decided to do my master's in anthropology, it was also kind of like an, quick decision on a whim, and it turned out great for me. Several of the contracts that I've done have also been kind of like surprise opportunities, and it always worked out great. And it's been the same for my personal life, not just my professional life. And it's just ever since I've been kids, I've been more worried about the impact of my decisions, and riding the wave has been a little bit more stressful. I felt like I had to make more strategic choices.
Mm-hmm. So you've rode the wave your entire life and it turned out beautifully. And so right now it feels like you're just on the precipice of perhaps a new adventure that can be even more free than anything that you've experienced before. So I got one more question for you. Really curious. How does it feel in your body if you imagine yourself gently releasing this old idea of who you were supposed to be that you had as a little girl and embracing the fullness of your magnificent life right now? How does that feel in your body?
It's a mix of stress and joy and freedom, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Does it make you excited to think about putting yourself totally into moving into this PhD program and knowing and trusting and having faith in the universe that this is the next best step for you?
I don't think I'm quite there yet.
Okay.
I want to be.
And what's stressful about this decision?
Well, it's just, it's not stressful to start the PhD because I know I'm going to enjoy it. It's going to be, a really interesting project. What's stressful is closing the door on the project of, working in sciences and being an astronaut, because I know that it's time sensitive. I can't decide when I'm 55 to study to be an astronaut and go on to space. I could work, in relation with the space program and space exploration. I could always do that in various ways. But if I want to try to be an astronaut, I have to do it sooner than later.
Okay. So just out of curiosity, what does it feel like to drop your entire career and focus 100% on going for your astronaut dream? How's that feel in your body?
I mean, it feels exciting. I would be a little bit worried about it because I did take science classes in the past, and although I loved it, it was a lot of hard work. What worries me the most about it is the fact that I have responsibilities towards my kids and my husband now. It would be a big investment. That's what's stressful about it, and time and money and effort. But I guess it would be exciting.
And are they behind you? Is your husband behind you if you wanted to go towards the astronaut career?
Yeah, he's behind me, whichever option I choose.
Mm-hmm. You're really interesting, Marie. You like being in this state of having one foot in both places because honestly, your voice lightens up and your energy lightens up when you're talking about going for your big dream of being an astronaut, just as a reflection.
Mm-hmm.
If you were lying on your deathbed and looking back on your life and your kids are healthy and your husband was by your side and you knew you were about to pass, what do you see behind you?
I would see that I had a really cool career in anthropology, and I tried to do a lot of important work. And I would see that I didn't go for my dream and of being an astronaut. I would see that I had a great family and great kids and a great husband, and I had the chance to travel a lot, which I'm grateful for.
So when you look at not going for that astronaut dream, is it a big deal? Again, you're thinking about this as really stepping into the last day of your life on Earth.
Yeah, I think so.
You think it is a big deal that you didn't go for it?
Yeah.
Okay. Now try on a different future. What if you did go for it?
Well, I might or I might not succeed, but at least I would have tried.
Would you be proud of yourself for trying?
Yeah.
Would you be okay if it didn't work out?
Yeah, because at least I would have given it all, my all,
Interesting. Really interesting. How do you feel now about moving forward? Is one more clear for you than the other?
Well, I think I do want to try to take science classes and see how it goes. And I think I do want to try to get started on the path to, work towards being an astronaut.
Okay, I'm cheering. I'm holding my hands up. I know you can't see me. What is the next step that you need to take in order to make this choice of becoming an astronaut come to life?
Well, I need to call the university in my city and see which classes I have to take to be eligible to enter a program in sciences.
Okay, what's that going to take? Like 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. I want you to do that and then write back to us and tell us how it went.
Okay, great.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I'm basically talking to a future astronaut right now, which is really, really exciting, Marie.
Let's hope so.
Oh, well, yeah, let's hope so. But more importantly, let's work towards it.
Mm-hmm. True.
Awesome. Well, I don't know if this was helpful for you, but I know I really enjoyed talking to you. And the one piece of advice I would give you is to really get quiet, look within yourself. And if this is what you want to do, make the choice and stop torturing yourself with having one foot in one place and one foot in the other, because you're not doing yourself any favors. You're certainly not getting closer to your dream of becoming an astronaut, and you're not getting yourself on another path either. It's the indecision in life that kills us.
It's Natasha from Germany. How are you?
Hi, Natasha from Germany. It's Marie and Greg and the Marie TV crew, and you are live on the Call-In Show. It's so great to talk with you.
It's so amazing to be here. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Absolutely. So, woman, tell us your question. We're going to see if we can help out.
Perfect. So can I just add one more thing really quick before we start?
Of course.
Perfect. I just feel I need to get this off my heart. So I just wanted to say thank you for not just you, Marie, but for your whole team. I think you have no idea how tremendously I inspire you, and you help me so much with your day-to-day work where I am right now in life and also in my business. So I just want to get that out before I jump into the question.
Oh, thank you. And everyone's faces here, they're all saying thank you. They're getting thumbs up. Everyone around, there's tears in Greg's eyes. So thank you for that, Natasha. It's perfect. People like you that we honestly do this for. If it wasn't for you and everyone else who paid attention, I'd have nobody to make a show for. I'd just be sitting in my room with like green screen and doing, wearing silly outfits and stuff. So thank you.
Yeah, no, I can imagine.
I'm sure you could.
I can imagine. I mean, but honestly, I've never met someone or saw something, who really took their tagline, create a business and life you love to heart like you guys do. So, if anything, that message is helping the world. So thank you again. And I will jump into the question because I know you need to answer that. So I did launch my business, which I, of course, did pour a lot of time and effort and money into it. And even though from the, I would call it environment, publications, people I talk to, I get really, really great feedback on. Yes. I haven't sold anything yet. So my question to you and your team would be if there are any indications that a business idea is simply not good enough to survive, and when is the right time to step away from it?
Yes. Okay. This is a brilliant question. I'm going to ask you some follow-up just so we can get some more clarity for you and also for everyone listening as well. So Natasha, can you tell us what your business sells?
Yeah, sure. So I created a meditation program for couples which go through or have to go through infertility program. So to help them to visualize and with the help with meditation and positive affirmation to prepare themselves to going through IVF.
Brilliant work. Really, really brilliant. Okay, and how long have you been doing this?
Not that long, but where, obviously my impatient comes into place.
Yeah,
but
sure.
So I've started that business about 6 months ago, launched the actual meditation program, which is an MP3 app that you can download from my website about 3 months ago. And of course, I have my marketing plan. A lot of the things you taught me on your show, I implemented. And as I mentioned, sell has been so far, almost none. So my question, or the big question mark, is how much more should I invest in terms of marketing, in terms of, developing new things? Because the industry or the feedback I'm getting is, oh, why don't you do this and that and this, even more. Sure. But all the requests I'm getting is tied to more investment. And, at some point I need to see, is that really a good idea, or was it just me? Because I had to go through the same experience where my idea came up. I wanted to help the world with something I felt the need for, and I was missing out going through that process.
Yes.
But I don't know if it was, if that whole thing is a mistake and I should step away from it, or if I just should keep going and, just listening to more Marie talks and hope for the best.
Yeah. So there's a lot that I want to say to you. So I want to share a quote, and this is not just for you, Natasha. So we're going to have a great conversation, but it's actually from my friend Tim Ferriss, and it's something that I come back to whenever I'm working with entrepreneurs, because you're right. When you've put a lot of work in, and when even people are giving you great feedback and they say, wow, this idea is amazing. If that's not translating into sales, rightfully so, you're asking some really good critical questions. So I want to read this quote from my friend Tim, because again, I want to make sure I answer this question in a way that's not just of service to you, which we will be, but also to other people. So Tim's quote is this: to get an accurate indicator of commercial viability, don't just ask people if they would buy, ask them to buy. The response to the second is the only one that matters. So for you, my friend, a couple more questions. Do you feel like you would be talking about and doing this type of work in terms of creating meditations for couples that are navigating the circumstance of infertility? Like, would you do that if you weren't getting paid for it? Like, do you feel like, oh my goodness, this is my life's work. Yes. I have to do this no matter what?
Yeah, straight from my heart. Yes, definitely.
Okay. Great. In terms of your financial situation, and please feel free to answer in whatever way you're most comfortable, are you in a situation where you need to earn money?
Yes, I am. So I'm a mom, obviously. My husband is also working, but I have a full-time job, and I'm a full-time mom right now. So I'm doing, this heart, what I call my heart project, on the weekends, night hours right now, which of course doesn't give me the freedom and time right now to pour everything into it. Even more important, why I need to really be careful in terms of money and time, how much I want to invest.
Okay, great. These are all great answers, and it's helping me get an even clearer picture to support you. Another question for you. When you have done projections around this business, are you clear for yourself of the amount of meditation albums that you would need to sell, whether it's per month, per 6 months, per year, in order to meet the financial goals that you have set for yourself?
That's a very interesting one, because first off, I didn't set myself a financial goal because I wanted to do it anyways, no matter if I get money from it or not. But then once you start investing, and I ended up investing more than I intentionally wanted to, because I wanted to get that professionally right and in good quality, then of course the return of investment I made today would be nice to have. So yes, I know how much I would need to sell in order to get that return of investment.
Okay. So do you feel like it's realistic, though, as a business, given I know you've been trying to sell it for 3 months now, and this whole thing has been kind of a 6-month endeavor in terms of the business aspect of it. I will say, generally speaking, that's a pretty short time frame for most small businesses. Some people hit it right out of the gate. My concern for you, Natasha, and this is just me going on my instincts, is that
there's not enough clarity around your business as what you'd like that to be in terms of your financial goals, right? Like how much revenue and profit you'd like to earn per year, or you need to earn per year to make this a really viable business. In terms of selling a meditation album, like, I don't know what people pay for things like that, but I know that there's so many free resources online. My gut's telling me this may not be the right exact business for you, but you would need to fill in some of those blanks. So for example, taking some time over the next week or two and really going like, what do I want my business to be? How much do I want it to earn? Who is the market that I am most committed to serving? What are their challenges and problems? And how might I be able to solve them in a way that allows me to charge what I need to charge in order to earn what I would really like to earn and have enough profit to make everything make sense? So let me give you an example outside of your industry. Having worked with over 40,000 B-Schoolers at this point, helping people start and grow meaningful businesses, oftentimes people would come in with an idea of like, hey, Maria, I want to get my business started and I want to sell this ebook, as an example. And they'd say, okay, great, you want to sell an ebook. What's the price point on that? And they would say anywhere between like $7 and $20 or $50. And I'd say, okay, and what are your financial goals? And when we start to really put things down on paper and get concrete, it became so clear so fast that there was not really a good chance for them to sell as many of those $7 or $10 ebooks to be able to make it to where they really wanted to go. So it gave them an opportunity to step back and reassess. Does that make sense?
No, that totally makes sense. And I have to say that I did do the math in that terms. I know how many, how big the market is. I know how many, clinics are there for me to approach and what the total outcome could be. But that also would mean I need to invest a little bit more to be recognized, to be seen, to be heard. And right now, and you made a very good point. Right now, there are so many free meditation programs out there. Yet I have to say they're not tailored to IVF, to couples going through that process. So that's why I think the world needs that, because there are a lot of people who are searching for that, where medicine doesn't help you emotionally. People in that incidence want emotional support. But I do get your point. I think I have to rethink about the finance behind it. And it's tough sometimes, because if something starts off as a heart project, it's tough to put numbers behind it, if you know what I mean. But I think I have to do that.
Yes, no, I agree with you 100%. But once we go into the world of for-profit business, right, we have to. And there is a way to marry something that we truly believe in and to have it work from a financial perspective. I've seen it so many times, so I am 100% clear that's possible, but there may be some retooling in here for you. And just a few more notes, just for you to consider as you move ahead. So one of the other things I like to do with folks, and I do it with myself as well, is ask myself, well, how much am I willing to put into this, knowing that I could possibly get nothing back? You know what I mean? Like, so for you, it might be looking at, wow, I'm going to push this really hard for, let's say, another 3 months or another 6 months, and I'm willing to commit X amount of dollars, knowing that none of it could come back, but I'm not going to take that as a loss. I'm going to take that as experience. I'm going to take that as learning. I'm going to take that as part of my contribution to this community. So you're not looking at it like a failing. You're looking at it like, I'm going to define this as giving it my best for this time period. Then I'm going to step back and reassess and see, what did I learn? What did I discover? Is now the time to really say, I need to pivot, and I can feel good, if so, walking away going like, I gave this my best and now I want to shift and think of something new. On the flip side, you could put all that effort and energy and money into it and the thing could start taking off. So I think we're still in a bit of an early stage where we don't know, but those are some of the pieces that I'd want you to think through to help yourself make the best decision for you.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I know that I'm in an early stage, but those advices you gave me a smile and goosebumps. So I think my intuition definitely knows what to do now. So thank you very much for those tips.
Oh, you're so welcome, Natasha. And I just want to say on behalf of so many friends that I have, so many couples that I know that are going through this process right now, and I've talked to them about their experiences. I am just so happy that you're creating what you're creating, because it's so incredibly needed for so many parents who want to have children who are wrestling with some of the most challenging situations. So thank you for taking care of people emotionally and using what sounds like was a really difficult situation for you and turning that into something meaningful that can support others. I've been on mentorship programs when it comes to social media and internet marketing. I know about funnels, email marketing, etc., etc. But I must admit that I've been struggling seriously with one thing: indecision. So when it comes to decide or figure out if I should combine all my passions, music, online business, social media marketing, helping others, staying fit, and more, in one brand, or should I just focus on one niche, 1 to 2 passions around that niche? Any tips or suggestions? I'm literally frustrated because I know that all successful people make decisions, whether the decision is right or wrong. But indecision is the worst scenario. I need to find clarity in my mind. I truly appreciate your time. Because of my indecision, my confidence has been going down with my bank account to a point where I don't know if I'm going to make it for rent the next month. That's how bad indecision, non-action can be. Thank you in advance for your help. Oh, that was like such a sensitive moment, wasn't it? Oh. I am so in love with this question because it touches on a bunch of different things. So we're gonna hit this A. Ooh, that sounds naughty. I'm gonna hit this A from a couple of different angles. So we're gonna dive in right now. Ricky, this is a fantastic question. I want you to know that you are not alone. This is something that many multi-passionate people struggle with, especially when they're first getting started. I struggled with this for many years. I had a passion for hip hop, for fitness, for spirituality, for marketing, for writing. I mean, all kinds of things. I actually felt schizophrenic. I felt like I was broken because every traditional business advice book was about choosing one thing and focusing down. And in that time in my life, I just couldn't do it. Bottom line, I know exactly what you're talking about. So I'm gonna share some ideas that will help you find clarity and get you out of the gray zone of indecision. First thing I noticed was this. In your question, you said, I need to find clarity in my mind. Here's the thing, Ricky. Clarity comes from engagement, not thought. Most people try and figure out major life decisions in their heads, and you just can't do that. It never works. You have to actually take action in one direction or another and start to feel your way. So when you go balls to the wall doing something, you actually feel the feedback and you're gonna know whether or not it's the right direction for you. So here's another strategy that you can use, and it's a question that you can ask yourself when anything is major in your life. You need to know whether to move ahead or whether just to let it go. This is the question that I asked when I was considering whether or not I should move ahead professionally and go for being a professional dancer. Now you have to know this. When I was making this decision, it was when I was, I think, around 24, 25, which in the dance world, that means I was older than dirt. Like, people are retiring from their dance career at that age, and I just wanted to start mine. So here's the question. In 10 years, will I regret not having done this? If you're honest with yourself, you're gonna get an immediate answer to that question. So for me, when I asked about professionally dancing, I knew that if I didn't go for it right then and there, that I was gonna regret it in 10 years. So I just got my ass to work and started dancing. Finally, let's tackle the online branding part of your question. So you asked, when it comes to decide or figure out if I should combine all my passions, music, online business, yada, 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 in one brand or more, in one brand, or should I just focus on one niche? Any tips? Yes. You have got to focus down first. You really need to get specific and choose just one thing to be an expert in, just one thing to focus on so you can kill it. That's really the secret to dominate, especially when you're starting an online business. Now, here's the thing I want you to know. Just because you're focusing on one thing doesn't mean you're ignoring your other passions. So let's say you chose to focus on social media marketing. It's not like you can't talk about your love of music or your love of fitness in your About page. You're just not gonna try and do all of those things at once in an online business. Once you kill it with one specific niche in an online business, it's very easy then to broaden out and start to include more things, but you're gonna get yourself into trouble if you try and do too many things at once. When it comes to online business, our man Confucius has it dialed in. He says, he who chases 2 rabbits catches none. When I first thought of this idea for my business, I was like, oh my God, I'm a genius. This is literally the best idea ever. I couldn't sleep. I spent every spare minute researching, jotting down more ideas, talking about it, and just being generally high on life. It's been a couple of months. I've secured funding and the website is in development, and boom, doubt creeps in. I've lost the buzz. Is there a secret to getting the mojo back about your business after time passes? I guess the excitement has phased into a concoction of overwhelm, doubt, and stress. How do I make sure I'm in love with my business even after the honeymoon phase? Thank you, Jessica. Jessica, I love this question. You know, so many of us can go from having a great idea that we're super pumped about and then we're super over it. That concoction that you talked about, the one of doubt, overwhelm, and stress, it is a buzzkill. And I don't know if you know this, but I used to be a bartender and I used to make some pretty good drinks. So let me whip you up a concoction that'll get that good buzz going once again. Passiontini, coming right up. It's been a while. It's gonna be 1 part turning pro, 1 part big vision, and 1 part stay hungry, baby. This is called the everlasting Passiontini, shaken, not stirred. Let's start with part 1, which is all about turning pro. This is all about overcoming what my friend Stephen Pressfield calls resistance. Resistance is that deadly force that pops up anytime you try and take on a new creative project, or you have a big new idea, or you make any effort whatsoever to improve yourself. Now, the whole secret here is recognizing that resistance is a natural part of the creative process, so I want you to expect it. This way, you won't freak out the next time you start going on this path, and then you realize you're like, you know what? I'm not as big of a genius as I thought I was.
Boy, tell me about it.
So turning pro means rather than giving up when the self-doubt creeps in, you use it as fuel to keep going. And here's the thing, nobody, not me, not you, nobody escapes resistance. It's kind of like gravity, so you gotta learn to deal with it. And if you don't, you're pretty much toast. Now, we've already done a few awesome episodes on this topic, and I'll put links below. Next up is your big vision. So one of the reasons that most people hit a wall or they lose that spark is they don't have a big enough or a compelling enough vision to pull them ahead. Here's what I mean. You can be motivated in one of 2 ways when you're trying to create or accomplish anything. You can try and push yourself to make yourself do it, which rarely works, or you can have a vision that is so exciting to you, so connected to your heart, so meaningful that it literally pulls you ahead. And it's not just about having a vision to pull you ahead. It really does have to be connected to something emotional, something in your heart that is really meaningful to you. Now, here's a tweetable to help you remember. You won't have to push yourself to keep going if you have a big enough vision to pull you ahead. So here's an example. At one point, our big vision was to find our own studio for Marie TV. Why? Because it was the biggest stress point in the business. Every time we wanted to shoot the show, we were like this little traveling caravan trying to find a place to do it in. So we realized, you know what, if we had our own studio, we would eliminate the biggest stress point in our business. So we set our big vision and we went to it. But here's the thing, it wasn't easy. If you know anything about real estate in New York, you know it's not an easy market. You know, every time we went out to look at someplace new, it was kind of sucky, it was small, it was really expensive, and you know, not the kind of place we wanted to actually be in. So many times I could have thought, you know what, let's just give this whole idea up. Let's fire the broker, let's just keep doing what we're doing. But that thought honestly never crossed our mind because we had such a huge vision for what this could be, and we had such a big emotional why that we stayed the course, and eventually we found our own studio. Last part of the Passiontini is you got to stay hungry, Jessica. And hunger comes when there's a real gap between where you are right now and where you want to be. So I don't know what really motivates you or excites you about your business. Maybe it's hitting a certain number of users. Maybe it's reaching a certain revenue goal or having a certain number in terms of your impact. But whatever it is, you've got to really stay connected to it and stay hungry. That means you have to have something that's slightly out of your reach to keep going for over the long term. One way to keep your hunger from dying is to not talk your idea to death. So many people do this and I want to shake them. Here's the thing, when you talk about your idea to death, it makes you feel falsely satiated. You know, we human beings are fueled by progress. It makes us feel happy and it keeps us on track. But when you talk about something over and over and over again, you almost trick yourself into think that you're making progress, but you're really not. It's kind of like eating a Snickers, totally empty calories. Now, here's the best thing about Passiontinis, my dear. There is no alcohol and there is no hangover. And guess what? You can even pour some for your kids. Oh my goodness, that was so fun. Now, if you loved this episode, you're going to love this next one even more because it goes even deeper. So enough talking, click, watch now, and I'll see you there.
I'm here to say to you right now, do not shortchange yourself. Because when it comes to the really important things in life, like your business, like your relationships, your health, all of it is about the long game.